Good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you're watching this transmission. 'Tis I, Mike Martins, and welcome to another very, very special edition of Illegal Housing on the Rise in Sydney. And what is happening? Lots is happening. And with affordability levels being shot, and now with stress testing and record low, historically low interest rates that are now drove prices, artificially inflated prices to record levels that Australian proper is completely bought out of the market. And for the people that think they could do it on a doctor's salary, think twice, because you probably can't. Overcrowded illegal housing on the rise in Sydney due to poor affordability, reports find. So this is what's going on, people. I read an article last year or 2 years ago for New Zealand where there was up to 40 or 44 people to a house. The house was described as a kennel, like a kennel. And how do you keep track of who's paying rent and not paying rent and behind on rent? How do you keep track of who even lives there if there's 44 people to a house? That was the question I was asking when I did the video originally. You could look it up on my channel. It's there. New Zealand housing, 44 or 41 people to a house. It's crazy, bizarre, but it's happening, and it's sad. Sydney councils are being flooded with complaints about illegal and overcrowded housing as a lack of affordable homes pushes people into substandard living conditions, new research shows. Remember that one guy that was living on the balcony in a tent in a condo in Sydney? Then there was that other guy in Melbourne that was living in a closet, and then there was that other guy in Sydney that was living in someone's like living room, and they put up like dividers. Yeah. Illegal granny flats, subdivided garages, and severely overcrowded properties with more tenants than beds are what cash-strapped Sydneysiders are increasingly turning to. According to a new report released on Monday by Sydney Police Lab at the University of Sydney, it's an increasing problem, said co-author of the report, Professor Nicole Gurran. Leaving affordable housing to the market hasn't worked and doesn't work. This is what marketplaces produces, Dr. Gurran said. Well, when you got historically low interest rates for that long, and we've never done it humanly, we've never humanly done this for this long in our history, and stealing your wealth. Remember when your bank accounts used to pay you guys actual money for having your money in their bank? Now they give you nothing. Why? Because they've taken that and reversed historically low interest rates and bailed out the banks and all the dividend collecting bank investors, so they don't pull out their investing, right? The number of people living in severely crowded dwellings classed as homeless more than doubled in the metropolitan Sydney between 2011 and 2016 census. Dr. Gurran said, meanwhile, complaints about illegal dwellings have risen markedly over the past 2 years, the report found. Dr. Gurran said complaints about illegal dwellings across council areas involved the study range from 10 per month to 80, with the majority found to be valid. She noted that there were different approaches across the city. Illegal granny flats were top of the concern in Fairfield, but overcrowding of apartments was the issue in Waverley. So imagine an apartment too. I remember when I used to live in downtown Vancouver, my entire floor was empty where I lived because it was all investor owned. So I lived on my own floor by myself. I could go out and use the hallway, and like I could have a project in the hallway and nobody would come by and see me. And they actually rented the flat beside me, the apartment right to the right of me, to a bunch of people having a party. What a disaster that was. They were just partying 24/7. That door kept opening and closing maybe 26 times an hour. It was so bad. It was so bad. And then finally someone stepped in from downstairs, and upstairs were complaining about the amount of noise. And they just, go figure, the entire floor is empty. And I'm just there alone. And then there's one that moves in and just like, yeah. Although some of the dwelling compiled with the planning system, many did not, rising significant health and safety risks to occupants. They were also increasingly being used as long-term solutions, did not come cheap, and left tenants in a vulnerable position, the report found. So these are people's apartments. What is that? Is that like off the side of a house? This looks like aluminum siding. Okay. While development control officers were reported to have been flooded with complaints about illegal dwellings, they felt they were just scratching the surface, with interviewees estimating about 10% of the unlawful dwellings were being brought to their attention. Councils are not resourced to do proactive inspections, said Dr. Gurran. There's no point in identifying and prosecuting any illegally overcrowding boarding house or dwelling if there is no alternative for people. That place, building inspectors, is really a tough position. So imagine being in that position where you walk in and say, I don't like this setup here. You're going to have to pack your bags and go. That's a pretty tough move, Tenants in informal housing have little protection under current regulations, according to Leo Patterson-Ross, Senior Policy Officer of the Tenants Union of New South Wales. Big issues that come up are quality of homes and lack of repairs and maintenance, and then exploitative practices around bonds, where it doesn't get lodged, and tenants never see it again, and pretty sudden evictions, Mr. Patterson said. He added the international students and new migrants with little understanding of their wages, of their rights, were particularly exposed, giving examples of tenants having their passport confiscated by landlords who said they had the power to deport them if they did anything wrong. Wow! Really? That's clever, you know what I'm saying? Wow! Mr. Patterson-Ross said tenancy reform was needed to ensure rental protections for everybody. Wow. Both he and Dr. Gurran added that boosting the supply of social and affordable housing was vital, as was better support for local governments to strengthen and enforce regulation. Improved tenant and specialist housing support and advice services. Better education around rules and regulation were also urgently needed. Recent research in the U.S. estimated around 5% of new housing was produced without planning permission. Wow. So 5% in the U.S. That's a big chunk of a pie. They were produced without planning permission. Wow. So it could be tent city homes, like in some of those tent city areas, they have these little shacks or pre-built, like kind of fabricated homes. I'm not sure if that covers that. With clear evidence of increasing illegal dwelling production in parts of Sydney, as well as the rise in informal and insecure rental agreements, she said further research was needed to determine the scale of the problem in Australia. A lack of data means it's a policy blind spot. State government acknowledged the severity of Sydney's hidden housing problem last year when the former Minister for Family and Community Services and Social Housing, Prue Goward, held the state's first roundtable on overcrowding. However, some experts were doubtful it would lead to action. Yeah, let's just spend taxpayers' money, have a meeting, and then not do anything about it. Yeah! More than 7 months on, new Housing Minister Melinda Pavey said it's unavailable. All these people working for the government here. Come on, do something here. Unavailable to provide an update about New South Wales government spokesperson, and the new minister was being briefed on several matters, including the roundtable outcomes. There had also been a little update on the big data approach touted as the solution to cracking down on illegal boarding houses and slumlords taking advantage of desperate tenants. Wow, let's open that and take a look at it. So we got the gist of what this is about, but I thought it was going to be more action-packed with stories of like 100 people in a room and stuff, but Sydney slumlord solution, big data to crack down on illegal boarding houses. Okay, it goes back to what we were talking about. And let me see, by comparing the water use for a standard 2-bedroom apartment with one that has many residents could be the first alert of an illegal boarding house. Illegal accommodation is an indication of how dysfunctional our housing system is. Very true. In an authorized boarding house, the maximum of 2 people can share a bedroom at the request of the resident. A room for one person should be no smaller than 7.5 meters or 11 square meters for 2 people. So there's lots of laws and bylaws, especially with hygiene. Look at this, man. This is in the bathroom. This is in the bathroom. Look at the sink here, a little bit of mud here, a little bit of repatching here on the drywall. Wow. Hey, let's just move this mattress in here. The team has issued fines totaling $75,000 and is currently undertaking criminal proceedings in New South Wales Land and Environment Court in retaliation to unauthorized use of industrial estate for short-term accommodation, they said. Wow. People are really taking advantage of desperate people. It hurts. It really, really hurts to see something like this. But you know what? It's reality. Historically low interest rates. Asset bubbles go through the roof. Sydney turned into a poop hole. Melbourne's turned into a poop hole. Crime skyrocketing out of control. Mass exodus of blue and white collar workers leaving Sydney and Melbourne and moving to places like Hobart and Darwin and all kinds of other places far away from the big cities to start new lives. What's at stake? Everything. Everything. People holding back on getting married, people holding back on having kids, people holding back on making specific decisions in life or specific everything. Everybody's lives all our outcomes are all derailed because of this stupid housing problem and selling out to rich investors. Disgusting. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you're in Sydney, Australia, big hug to you. Big hug to you guys down in Australia. Watch my money laundering videos in Canada and how it's gotten so bad, out of control. Absolutely out of control. Billions laundered in Canada. Let me know. Comment below. Thanks for watching, guys.